Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about the vintage metagame over the course of the past week. And as with all metagames, a little bit of a disclaimer. This is technically a winner's metagame since Magic Online only posts top 32s of challenges, but it's still really reflective of the overall metagame. Let's jump into it. At the very top, to nobody's surprise, Esper Luris Control. In second, Dimir Luris Control. In third is Dredge. In fourth, Sphere Shops. And in fifth is Raker Shops. So let's talk about these decks, starting with Raker Shops. Raker Shops is one of the newer decks that has been added to Vintage recently. Effectively, this is a Shops deck, but instead of trying to get crazy card advantage with like paradoxical outcome or whatever, it still uses the One Ring, but it's using Glaring Flesh Raker alongside Patchwork Automaton to apply a ridiculous amount of pressure to the opponent. Because if you have the Glaring Flesh Raker, you cast some Moxes or Soul Rings or whatever, you end up profiting quite a bit of mana. And that alongside cards like Manifold Key that can untap the One Ring to draw even more cards, and then untap the One Ring to draw even more cards, etc., etc. And then you end up playing even more of these Moxes and more of these colorless cards, triggering Glaring Flesh Raker, then multiple Glaring Flesh Raker. You end up having so much mana and so many cards that you eventually get so many Glaring Flesh Raker triggers, you kill your opponent. Sphere Shops is a tiny bit more traditional, but still a weird and different version of it. It's sort of a lockout version of the Shops deck, using Sphere of Resistance to make spells cost more, which matters a lot less for the Shops deck than other decks, which allows the deck to play very powerful cards and mana ramp and all that stuff, locking the opponents out with cards like Null Rod, then just kill slowly after that lockout. In third is Dredge. Dredge is a Bazaar Baghdad deck where they mulligan to Bazaar Baghdad nearly every game, using Serum Powder to help with the mulligans. Once they hit Bazaar Baghdad, that allows them to draw 2 cards and discard 3 cards, discarding dredgers and other things that matter, and then using the Bazaar Baghdad draws to dredge an insane amount every single turn to cheat a whole bunch of creatures onto the battlefield and trigger Creeping Chill and all of that stuff. In addition to that, Bazaar Baghdad makes it so you can play Hollow One for free, so you can just cast that from your hand, and they protect this combo of like getting a ton of creatures on the battlefield for free with cards like Grief and Force of Will. And Force of Negation. Dimir Luris Control is kind of like I play better cards than you deck. It plays a bunch of the Power 9 cards to get crazy ramp, time walks, all of that stuff. Force of Will's Force of Negation to stop their opponent from doing stuff, drawing a whole bunch of cards off of Ponder and Brainstorm and counters for days, answering the opponent's creatures with Fatal Push, and then punishing their opponent for drawing cards, which every Vintage deck does with Orcish Bowmasters, and getting crazy card advantage themselves with Psychic Frog. The deck is just so powerful. And Esper Luris Control is effectively the same thing, except it plays Swords to Plowshares and like Rest in Peace and stuff as well. It's doing the same stuff, playing incredibly powerful cards and just like out power leveling opponents' decks, being sort of the tempo deck. I would say it's a little bit more tempo than Control, but it's just so powerful. But that is the Vintage metagame. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.